Hey guys, what's up? Kip here, as always, and today we're not going to be talking about Paragon. We're actually going to be talking about Battle Royale, specifically Fortnite, and about something that I saw on Twitter. I'm going to link it down below. Basically, Tencent is investing 15 million or something like that into Fortnite Esports and all this, and this really just got me thinking, because obviously Fortnite, most played game right now, most watched game right now, all that jazz, popping off, breaking records, all of this, becoming super mainstream and all this. But I want people to understand and accept something. Fortnite is not a competitive game. And it honestly never will be. And this sounds really harsh, sounds really, I don't know, so some people would just get pretty defensive after hearing that. But I want you guys to understand why I say that. Now, obviously, Battle Royale in general is just to pick up and play a game. By nature, it's just to pick up and play a game. Obviously, RNG plagues it, too many perspectives. You probably heard these things before. But it's really not it. Like, a lot of people just they either don't admit that these things are problems, or they either don't admit that these things are problems, or they just go like, well, it's whatever, it's the biggest game anyways. Since there's numbers, it's fine. And people don't look at trends that have even happened recently that people will remember if you've been around in the gaming scene for the past about 2 years. So I'm gonna bring you back in time before I actually start talking about Fortnite and specifically my issues with it and why I don't think it'll be a good esport. So let's go back to May of 2016. May 2016, Overwatch comes out. Overwatch is the biggest, is the game. It's the game at the time. It's the thing that people are saying it's the league killer. It's finally gonna dethrone League and all this stuff. Was also doing really well in a lot of places. Overwatch League was announced. It was super, super hype. People were like, wow, this is it, man. This is the next big thing and all this jazz. Overwatch is still doing fine, but it's nowhere near what it was. Early 2017, like March, February, April, something like that. PUBG comes out. PUBG's doing the same thing that Overwatch did. It was popping. Then Shroud was being talked about super much because Shroud stopped playing CS:GO, went and did streaming and PUBG and all that stuff. PUBG was beating League on Twitch, which was kind of unheard of at the time. All this stuff. PUBG tournaments were even doing pretty well and all this stuff. Obviously a lot less well now, but then obviously it dropped off. Stroud's still pulling in a lot of viewers. People don't talk about him, but now Ninja's the man, and Fortnite's the game, and all this stuff. Which when did Fortnite Battle Royale come out? Like August, September, something like that. Like somewhere in the fall of 2017. The point is that each one of these games have had their shot, and obviously Fortnite is an outlier in some sense in terms of the numbers, in terms of the mass appeal that it's had, and all this stuff. No one can really deny that. But if you think that if people think that it's enough, that this is enough, then you're wrong. Because trends do peak. Trends do peak. They do go up. They do dry out. They always do. In everything, in life, in everything. And it's a trend. It doesn't have sorry about that. It does not have longevity. It's kind of the issue. The only way that you can get longevity in a pick up and play game, something like a BR, a MOBA, and all this, something that doesn't have progression tied to it or an incentive in order to keep coming back like an MMO does in terms of gear progression or the social aspect. It doesn't have any of these things to tie you back. The only things that can make you keep on playing it is some social aspect in some sense, which there always is in these multiplayer games, some social aspect in some sense, or esports. Those are the only two things. Now you might say, well, esports is fine. And this is the whole point of the video. It's not fine. Fortnite esports is not fine. It has a plethora of issues. So let's actually get into it. Obviously, you probably already heard about too many perspectives, man. But it really is something that people have to accept. There are too many perspectives in order to watch. When you're going from 40 to 100 players or whatever in one arena, it's so hard to watch. Obviously, as the game progresses and it gets smaller, it gets easier to track down, but that's not the entire game. The entire game isn't the last 3 minutes when the circle starts shrinking down to its bare minimum. Another thing, and this is something that plagues Fortnite more than any other BR, is the fact that building adds more clutter to a game that's already hard to watch, just in general, because of how many perspectives. So can you imagine 2 squads, it's 8 people building, all building. at the same time and all destroying at the same time. It would just be so much clutter, so hard to watch. Not to say that some of this can't be mopped up with good camera work, but it's gonna be really, really hard. Like the camera work you're going to need is going to be insane. Where it's like you're going from the bird's eye view to the third person view, like switching between players and all this, seeing their perspectives. I don't actually know if it's feasible in order to actually have that type of camera work. I really don't. I think there's just too much to actually get like the right bird's eye view into the right person, and like all this stuff is like it's just really, really rough. So let's just acknowledge this, okay? There is a lot. There is a lot of perspectives. There's a lot of stuff, and in some instances, building might look cool, especially like if it's like a 1v1 fight and something. But this is where like those situations that you're thinking of right now, with like the really cool 1v1 fights that you might have seen on streams, like they're never gonna happen because of generally just okay in competitive games. It doesn't matter if it's BR, but BR like is plagued by this in particular. When you are playing for money, when money is on the line, when in a sense like some people's livelihood is on the line, you will always take the highest percentage play. You will always play for the highest chance to win. You're not going to see crazy shots, 360s and all this. It's not going to be as entertaining from that perspective. And it really is just going to be a really, really campy play style. And Fortnite and BRs in general facilitate this so much. There's a reason why you see these people who they win games, but they have like really low kill counts, and people like really high kill counts. You're not going to get these high kill counts and all this stuff. It's just not going to happen unless people get a lot of kills in early game or something. You're not gonna get these moments in the same vein. It really is just gonna be about building. It is just gonna be about like this, and there is something to say for like almost like the tactical aspect of it, but there is also issues with the building system in terms of a tactical aspect. The fact that you can probably just unload like a couple hundred rounds into a wall, and the person just keeps on rebuilding the wall. It's a very boring thing to do. I know there are some arguments about that building is supposed to allow you to play more aggressive in all of this, but it, in a sense, is just like another layer. Like it's almost like it increases time to kill artificially so much in a game where time to kill is like very, very important already, and very, very there are already other things to mitigate time to kill, like shield potions, like bandages, and all this stuff in different ways, and whatever other tools you have. I don't actually play Fortnite, so I don't know. But yeah, so like I said, these are all very big issues, and the another one, and this is actually like something that I've never heard anybody bring up. Results in general in any BR are going to be too inconsistent. You might go, well, what's the problem with that? That's actually kind of cool. That's like there's a new winner every single week. Yeah, but people don't understand that, especially for commentary, especially for just the general how you're going to remember these games. You need to build a narrative or a story in order to actually keep people along and make it interesting. And BRs do not facilitate this in any sense. It's not like something because people are just like because someone else is just winning every other week because of RNG, and not the good kind of RNG. And because of all this, like it's just an absolute joke. Like one week TSM will win, next week FaZe Clan, the next is like Vitality or something. I don't know. And like all this jazz. And I don't know. Unless it's you can align with somebody, or like you could like somebody or like their story because this guy's a streamer, and like I attach to this streamer, I like this streamer, but it's not actually a narrative that everybody can follow. Another thing is the fact of I will admit that this is like almost personal preference, but I think that there is some truth in this, and I hope you guys understand. It's just the fact that there's no real way to run a LAN and it seemed like actually super professional, in the sense of that whenever you have like 100 PCs stacked, it just seems very strange. It doesn't actually feel like a competition or a LAN. It just feels like a LAN party in a lot of ways. There is something to be said about having like if you're watching League of Legends, Dota, or like even Overwatch to an extent, you see these 5 to 6, or you see these 10 to 12 people, depending on which game it is, or even like basketball or anything. You see these people and you can align with them. Like you see the number on their back if they're a basketball player or something, or you see like the hero in the background, like behind them if you're watching League of Legends or Dota or all this stuff. You can easily align. It's like a bit more of a personal experience in a sense, in a strange sense. I'm kind of butchering this a bit, but I hope you guys understand like the idea about it, because I can't really articulate it. But that's just kind of like I do think it's a bigger issue than people might think. So I don't think LANs actually work for BR in particular. And another thing is it's very, very hard to actually compare individual players in BR. This kind of goes into like setting the narrative and all this. It's really, really hard to compare individual players. First of all, because there's no defined rules to compare players to begin with. Now, you see, you don't need defined rules like something like CS:GO. There are defined rules in a sense, but not really. So you don't necessarily compare people by their positions, but you can compare people in different ways in CS:GO. Notably, CS:GO, you can almost put everything into numbers, like absolutely everything, like ADR, like average damage per round, and like all these other numbers. You can literally find somebody's strengths and weaknesses in numbers in CS:GO. You cannot put the same amount of numbers into somebody's strengths in Fortnite. You can't give their building strength a fucking value. You just can't. You also just don't. You just don't know certain things, and like you can't really create that narrative through numbers. Is my point. So it even attaches to the fact that you cannot create this narrative and all this. Now, I'm gonna kind of close this with almost like not really a disclaimer, but like just reinforcing statement to what I said in the beginning. I do not think Fortnite will succeed in the long term, and people could watch it and it could really pop off. It'll probably break some records or something like this. But people need to understand that this is like it is undoubtedly a trend, and the thing is that the game does need esports. Otherwise, it will just come and go, just like every other trend. Like a new thing will come up this year, maybe early next year, and then people will just migrate. It's just how it always happens. I will say that like there is no way that Fortnite dies or anything like that. It will never like I don't even think like it'll fall like PUBG did because of like how many platforms it's on and all this. But the thing is that in terms of longevity, you need esports to survive in a game that doesn't have progression actually in the game. That there is no progression. It is just a pick up and play game. And without the type of progression that is in esports or something to attach yourself like the esports scene, you do not have long-term progression. So the point is, Fortnite is fine, but it is a shit esport just like every other BR. That is my point. That is my opinion. What's yours? Comment down below. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me agree with me. Like, comment, subscribe. Dislike the video if you don't like it. Whatever. Join Discord if you want to talk to me about stuff like this. And yeah. Peace out, guys.